On today's Go, we take to the sky. Welcome to this week's episode of Go. Well, with Squamish known for its wind, what better place to host the 4th annual Kite Clash here at the Spit on Howe Sound. And here to tell us all about that event is the organizer himself, Steve, not Hulk, Tulk.
That's right, you got it.
Steve, let's talk about this event you brought to Squamish 4 years ago. What led to that?
Well, there's a big local crew of kiters here, and they wanted to see some competition. They wanted to see a show. For us, sometimes it's kind of the end of the season party. It's time to let loose, show off what you've been practicing all summer, and just have a good time.
Have a good time is the main thing. Yeah, because you mentioned there's similar events also in Oregon, also Vancouver Island. But how is this one different here?
Well, it's. I think it's a little more intimate. I mean, the viewing area here, the competitors are just getting so close to you. Yeah, they're within a finger touch away, you know. So they can meet the athletes. The spit is really quite small, and everybody's close. And even the competitors, when they're competing, are just right there.
Yeah, no, it's great. You see that the shuttle buses are coming in. It's a free event for people to come, get up close and personal with boarders. Can't beat it. Let's talk about the rundown for the whole weekend. Today is the Canadian Freestyle Championship.
That's right.
Tell us a bit more about that and what we can expect for the weekend.
Well, today is going to be all Canadians competing for the Freestyle Championship. So we crown a Canadian champion every year. Our 6-time champion, Sam Medysky, is going to be out here competing. We got a bunch of other up-and-comers and a couple of unknowns from the East Coast that are coming out to challenge. So should be an interesting day. And then after that, we're going to have our twin tip kiter cross. 4 riders at a time competing on a race course with a couple of obstacles. Should make for some interesting racing. Tomorrow, I think we're going to squeeze in the Open International Freestyle Comp and then the Big Air.
In the Big Air. And that's amazing. Those guys reach heights of 3 stories I've seen on TV.
Up to 20 meters.
Yeah.
It depends on the wind. We're hoping for some strong winds tomorrow. So.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Steve. Appreciate it. Okay, well, with today's focus, the Canadian Freestyle Championships, let's take a look back a little bit of today's event. Right from the get-go, the energy at this year's Kite Clash was sky high.
We fly all the time in the summertime here from Squamish, and today's a great day to do it. Start 2016 Kite Clash.
Howe Sound was a sea of color once again the end of August, with over 70 kiteboarders taking to the water to compete for high-flying titles throughout the weekend. Today, family, friends, and local onlookers packed the stands to take in the Freestyle Championships, emceed by former 4-time British champion Lewis Crathern.
I'm expecting, spectator-wise, anywhere from 100 to 400 people. The beer is definitely a draw, and the food, there's great food, and a DJ out here, so it's a beautiful day.
It's a lot of fun. It's a little different than I'm used to in Calgary, out on the lake.
I was like, I gotta check it out. I'm from Squamish, see what the hype is about, and it's really cool.
I just love how it's such a community sport, and it's a spectator sport, and everybody can be involved no matter how old or how young you are, and so that whole community feeling is pretty cool.
And the tricks don't hurt either. The unique thing about Kite Clash is it truly is a clash of ages for competitors as well. This year's ranging from pro rider Sam Medysky to up-and-coming daredevils such as local boy Jack Reeder, who fell in love with the sport 2 years ago.
I used to race sailboats, and I was racing around in the bay, and then I saw all these guys going a lot faster, and I wanted to try it.
The best part?
The wind is always changing, and there's different waves every time. So it makes it harder, but it also keeps it a lot more fun because it's never the same trick.
The winds here are some of the steadiest you can get in the world. I mean, it's a thermal wind. It gets funneled, Venturi effect back behind us here, where it gets squeezed and it just spreads out over the rest of Squamish. Usually our gusts are less than 5 knots, which is pretty unusual.
Riders are judged on their tricks and use of control in the air, or in some cases, lack thereof. Squamish wind may be referred to as hairdryer smooth, but in a sport combining wakeboarding and acrobatics, there's gonna be wipeouts.
It hurts, but it's fun. It's a new challenge.
While males may still dominate the water in numbers, It's clear women are more than claiming a stake in the sport. This year, over a dozen took part in the freestyle competition, with that number only expected to rise as kiteboarding gains greater awareness in North America.
I think it's important for women to push sport and be involved in sport. Anyone can do it, really. You have a few lessons and it's quite a steep learning curve, but anyone can pick it up, which is great.
At the end of the day, it's the thrill of playing with Mother Nature that keeps these riders going. From there, sky's the limit. Did you know in the big air competition, kiters can be up in the air for up to 10 seconds at a time? Pretty amazing stuff, and who knows, maybe one day I'll attempt it. We'll see. Stay tuned. All right, well, switching gears here from one extreme sport to another. The AllStar Wrestling Tour has had quite the busy summer as well, touring all around the Lower Mainland, stopping in Chilliwack, Langley, and in Squamish earlier this year. Let's take a look back at the event where one dreadful bird is inspiring kids to fly to new heights. His name runs through his blood.
My name's Andy the Dreadful Bird. Just get myself prepped and ready to go before I step in the ring and do some battle.
This rebellious bird has been traveling the Western Canada wrestling circuit for over 5 years. His personal idols, about as close to the heart as you can get.
Got a little bit of my hero here and Bret the Hitman Hart on the shoulder pads. I've got the Macho Man Randy Savage, ooh yeah, with the tassels. I'm feeling great, ready to go. Let's fly.
The AllStar Wrestling Tour has been coming to Squamish for well over a decade. Every year, the Sea to Sky's biggest fans come to check out BC's best talent, including Andy, who's tonight's guest wrestler.
We're very excited to see it. Yeah, it looks great.
I think it's great to come and see all these new guys, just wrestle.
I like the action pretty much.
I think we got 12, maybe 14 wrestlers tonight.
Let's wrestle!
I wrestled Andy myself years ago. I thought, hey, we're going to Squamish and it'd be great to have Andy there.
A minute into the match, it's clear AllStar is all about entertainment, a chance for fans of all ages to escape and simply be immersed in over-the-top action. What these fans may not know, though, is wrestling has provided a different kind of escape for Andy.
I grew up with my mom. I've lived in probably 26 different places.
This reserve, one of the many the wrestler grew up in and around Saskatoon. With not much to do, the young boy turned to wrestling for entertainment.
We'd sit down and we'd watch Monday Night Raw every night. I loved the underdog aspect. There was always a hero, so my hero was Bret the Hitman Hart, my idol.
By the age of 20, Andy left the reserve for good and began professional wrestling in Calgary and Vancouver. Today, the 26-year-old has over 300 matches under his fluorescent belt, not to mention a wife who's expecting their first child.
It just goes to show that you can do anything. I'm a little native boy who was raised in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan by a single deaf mother, homeless at 14 with an alcoholic father, and had dreams of being a professional wrestler. Everyone told me I couldn't do it. Here I am.
The Squamish Show's proceeds is also going towards the Bird's Nest, a nonprofit organization that Andy recently started up, helping adults such as himself leave their reserves to find a better life in BC.
Andy's using his name as a wrestler to help better the people in his community. That's great that he's doing that.
He may crush opponents for a living, but it's clear there's a soft side to this dreadful bird. Andy's hope that, like him, these kids are inspired to take life into their own hands.
Anything is possible. It doesn't matter where you've come from, who you are. You want something, go out and get it.
If you missed this year's last match, don't worry, AllStar Wrestling is returning once again to Squamish on September 16th at Totem Hall. The match starts 8 o'clock or so. So if you'd like to buy tickets to that event and learn more about the group, visit allstar-wrestling.com. All right, well, stick around because after the break, we're going behind the mic with professional kiter and 6-time national champion Sam Medysky. Stay with us. Also after the break,
the last thing they have to do is worry about their transportation.
Meet one of the driving forces helping make cancer patients' lives a whole lot easier. Welcome back to Go. We're here today celebrating the 4th annual Kite Clash happening on the Spit at Howe Sound. And standing next to a guy who knows a little bit about this event, Sam Medysky, who is a 6-time national Canadian champ winner. How are you feeling today? You're going for your 7th title.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. It's every year coming back here to Squamish for the Canadian Nationals. It's always interesting. There's a lot of young kids coming up, and I'm only getting older, so there's
a bit more competition now, eh?
Exactly. There's kids kind of 10 years younger than me I'm competing against, so that's always interesting. And regardless, it's good to see the sport growing and more youth getting into it and starting to compete. So I think it's good for kiteboarding in Canada.
Yeah, you see how much the circuit is, like you said, it's still fairly small in North America. How much have you seen it, say, grow in the last few years? You mentioned it was more like it's an East Coast, West Coast thing right now?
Yeah, it's definitely kiteboarding, I think, in North America is smaller compared to Europe or Australia or some of the other big kiteboarding locations, simply because we have the East Coast and West Coast where we've got the oceans, and then we've got the Great Lakes, I guess. But besides that, we're kind of landlocked here in North America, so it makes it a little bit tougher for people who don't have the water access to get into kiteboarding. But definitely on the East and West Coast and on the Great Lakes, kiteboarding is really starting to take off, and more people are getting into it, and especially now more youth are getting into kiteboarding.
It must be a weird feeling for you because part of it is you probably like that it's smaller. That helps your chances. You're, is it 7th in the world for kite park, you were saying? Or?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. No big deal. But what is your strategy for today? You know, when you're on the water, does each kiteboarder have a different strategy, or what's going through your head?
A lot of the times, I mean, when I'm competing, I try to start off, I take all the tricks that I'm going to do in my heat, and I'll categorize them with my most consistent tricks at the start of the heat, so I get points kind of throughout the beginning of the heat, and I'll save my more difficult tricks for the end of the heat. And that way, if I do happen to crash those, I still have points on the board to hopefully make it through to the next round.
Okay, you're still good, yeah. And how challenging is the sport? Though obviously you got the wind you're dealing with. Like, are you scared when you go out, or are you just past that by now?
I've been doing it now 18 years, so it's kind of, I've done it for more than half my life now, and I don't get scared anymore. I get a little nervous before an event, but besides that, once you get into kiteboarding and kind of get it all figured out, it's a pretty safe sport. And really you kind of learn what the dangers are, but then you also learn how your safety releases work, and you can avoid those situations.
Yeah. So what keeps you going?
I don't know. I've always kiteboarded my whole life. It was a childhood dream, and I'm here now, and I don't want it to stop. I'm loving every moment of it. I go out every day riding in the wind and the water, and it's so diverse, kiteboarding. You can do it in the waves, you can do it in the flat water, you can even ride in the snow on skis or snowboards, so it's a pretty dynamic sport that way, and it's a new day every day on the water.
Totally, living the dream, as they say.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining me, Sam.
Thank you.
I'm here with former British champion Lewis Crathern. Lewis, you mentioned you're taking part in Slalom and Big Air tomorrow, but you're here to support Sam, one of his good friends.
That's right, he's one of my good friends, and I met him quite some years back out in South Africa, and he invited me over to sort of his country here in this beautiful spot in Squamish. This is my 2nd trip. I was completely blown away by it last year, so I'm here again.
It's a pretty amazing place to have in our backyard. We take it for granted, for sure. But you're here to obviously cheer on maybe the younger generation also. They're up and coming. And Sam, what's your advice you give to kiteboarders before they go out on the water?
My advice to kiteboarders in this competition, especially, would be just to relax, enjoy themselves. I mean, there's not many places you can compete around the world where you have such a beautiful breathtaking view, and also the spectators are so close, so to enjoy it really, it really is an incredible place to be. Don't stress out too much. Most of these young kids will know exactly what tricks they want to do anyway, and don't stress if it goes wrong, because sometimes it does.
Yeah, you guys make it seem like it's almost, you've trained enough that it's relaxing enough out there. It's not as stressful and scary looking as maybe spectators think, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, spectators can often think, how come you don't fly away forever and you come back down. The more you do something, the more it becomes one. And the kites really are an extension of our body. They're 22 meters away from us, but we can feel everything through our hands and we are part of it. So it's not really something to stress about.
No, not too much. You guys are very humble. So you've mentioned you've been doing it for about 10 years, kiteboarding, traveling around the world competing. But interesting, tell us about, you also lead a speaker series with kids.
Yeah, I love kiteboarding. It's such an incredible sport. I found it to be a really useful tool to engage young people about all sorts of things, about renewable energy, staying healthy, what to do after school, staying positive, and I like to do assemblies and workshops. Flying little kites with young people for as young as 5 years old is just a great way for them to feel that power of the natural energy. So I like to do that sort of thing. I'm here to commentate as well this event, bringing it to the spectators. I like to coach people how to jump. There's much more to it than just competing as a professional kiteboarder.
Yeah, a man of many roles. That's nice to see, because some kiteboarders say once the sport's over, sometimes it can be hard to figure out what to do next, so it can branch into other areas.
Yeah, you deal with that question quite a lot as you get older, especially through your 20s, but when you're that passionate about something, you find a way. There's so many different avenues you can go as a professional sportsman. Either you become part of a brand, you can run a school, you can be part of a setup like this. This is incredible. There's over 700 members here and it works so well. So there's lots of different ways, and I'm positive kiteboarding will remain part of my life forever.
Yeah, one way or another. Okay, I have to ask, I'm sure you've been asked many times, but you're known for, there's a YouTube video in 2010, you jumped over Brighton Pier in England. Amazing footage. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was incredible. It was like I'd competed for 4 years solid. I was doing really well on the national tour, and it wasn't getting so much exposure, the sport, and certainly my own riding, and I almost gave up a little bit. And it happened to be my local landmark, Brighton Pier, and I used to kite by it all the time, and I dreamt one day I would jump over it. And really I thought one day in my life someone's going to do that, and I wanted it to me. That was as simple as that with that.
Amazing. And what was the lead up to it though? Because some people say you could wait days trying to get the perfect wind conditions. Did you have to go out at like 4 in the morning?
I waited a year for that.
Wow.
The year before we jumped over my hometown pier of Worthing, so we knew it was possible to go over a big one, and Brighton is this big iconic landmark, so I was checking forecasts all the time and I knew exactly the right day. There were so many things that had to be right: the wave height, the wave angle, the wind speed, the wind direction. There was a lot to it, but I'm glad it worked. I'll never do it again.
No, one time, you're good.
Yeah, one time, it's done now. Yeah, I won't do it again.
Okay, well, glad you did survive. So thanks, Lewis, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. All right, let's go to our next story here. While you don't think to drink hot tea on a hot day like today, according to some studies, it can actually help increase your sweat glands and cool you down in the process. And if you're looking for a delicious cup of tea, look no further than the Whistler Teahouse. It's a drink dating back to the 16th century. For Yulia, it's the only way to start the day.
It helps me to wake up every morning. I love it because it's strong, I love the flavor.
Which is why the soft-spoken Russian was so upset when, upon moving to Egypt, she discovered her home's black tea wasn't very popular in the Arab country.
There it was difficult to find a good tea. When my husband went to Russia, he always brought for me.
Fast forward to 2012, and turns out the mother of three had the same problem after moving to Whistler. And so, in the fall of 2014, she approached her good friend Sylvie.
It was a pleasant surprise.
Traveling the world as a diving instructor for a number of years, turns out this free spirit had her fair share of tea knowledge.
Whether you go to Asia, Africa, or South America, there is a culture of drinking teas or herbal teas.
And so the two opened up Whistler's first tea house in January 2015. With the resort town attracting a large number of South American and UK tea drinkers, the quaint space located in Whistler Village offers over 30 freshly made natural teas from around the world, along with the team's own specialty brews, including fresh fruit, herbs, and ginger to satisfy all tea grannies.
We have a pretty good selection of black teas. We have some really nice greens as well, and herbal teas. The whole health trend makes it really popular.
When friends come at our place, we usually ask them, hey, would you like a cup of tea? I have a new one. Would you like to try? And this place, the same.
Of course, what would a cup of tea be without a proper teacup? At the Whistler Teahouse, customers have a full shelf of both vintage and modern china to choose from. For this Whistler mom, it's these details that have made the bright gathering spot such a warm and rare find.
As you can tell, I'm from the UK, so very into tea. You know that there's a little effort put into the tea, so love it.
Before I come to work, I always come here first. It's like coming to your home, like in your backyard, and then just having some nice cool sip of nature, Mother Nature out there, yeah.
And perhaps what makes those sips of tea so good is the traditional practices behind them.
Very often you have a ceremonial preparation that can vary. In matcha, for instance, is one that is really important. People are present and really careful in the preparation.
As part of this, Yulia and Sylvie go to great lengths not to talk while preparing many of their servings, including this frothy traditional Japanese drink made from crushed green tea leaves.
This one is a traditional one. Mate, it is traditional from South America. It is a very, very popular drink and very important part of the culture as well. What is interesting is that traditionally mate is not something that you will drink individually on your own. It's something that you prepare to be shared.
With the shop quickly becoming a community gathering spot, today it holds numerous public workshops, mom meetups, sewing nights, and more.
I think it's my favorite thing about this place is the people it attracts. They're really, really beautiful people, all of them, very different.
Seeing those people drink one of life's greatest pleasures, well, that comes in a close second.
I love to share my passion with them, so I am so happy when I see people here.
Did you know that turns out the tea bag was invented accidentally in 1903? A kind of a neat story. It turns out tea importer Thomas Sullivan would ship out samples of his tea to customers in little silk bags, and they didn't know. They mistakenly just started dipping the whole bag into the water, and turns out the tea bag has stuck around ever since. Interesting, and the more you know. You're welcome. All right, well, moving along on the show here, if there's anyone who deserves to sit down with a nice cup of tea, it's woman in our next story. Turns out the last year has been one of the toughest for local Squamish resident Louise. However, thanks to a nice group of selfless drivers here in town, her road to recovery has been made a little bit smoother.
Are you ready for me to make your lunch?
Yes.
Okay, what do you want?
Cheese slices. Do you want me to get the thing out for you?
A mom and daughter making a sandwich. They may have done it hundreds of times, but this is no ordinary day for these two.
Today's the last day, Mom. We'll have to celebrate when we come home. How's that? Sure.
Today is Louise Clark's last day of radiation.
I'm glad. I just have a few more appointments, but now I'm sure I'm cancer-free. Now that she is free, it feels wonderful. It's good.
Louise had her first mammogram ever back in January. Within a few weeks, she received the news no woman wants to hear. She had breast cancer.
I just lost it, so my mom had to come in and told me that it was okay, you'll be fine. This card's for my dates of my radiation.
I think that's it, and make sure we got your books and your card.
Lucky for Louise, they caught the cancer early. However, the Squamites still required immediate surgery and 16 rounds of radiation down at Vancouver General Hospital. Considering Louise doesn't drive, and Mum Marilyn isn't comfortable battling city traffic, stresses were at an all-time high. Then, a group of volunteers pulled up to the rescue.
How are you, girls? Nice day for a drive. Yes, ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right.
Jim is a member of the Squamish Volunteer Drivers for Cancer program. Once a week or so, he and the group's 14 other drivers, most of them retirees, give up their time to take patients to and from their appointments in Vancouver.
It's already very traumatic when people find out that they have cancer, and so the last thing they have to do is worry about their transportation. It basically costs us $60 to $70 a trip, and people can't afford to pay that. So that's why we offer the service free.
I lost both my parents to cancer. My dad was 64 and my mom was 82, but they both went prematurely as far as I'm concerned. When I was approached, I said, sure, obviously.
The program is run completely off of community donations and government grants. 10 locals, including Louise, have taken advantage of it this year alone. With patients sometimes having to make up to 25 trips to the city, the savings and selfless hours for volunteers like Jim is overwhelming.
I was so appreciative of how good that they were. You come out of her treatment, well, how would your treatment go today? You know, how do you feel? They were always interested in the people that they were taking into town.
David and Danielle are another example of a special bond between driver and client.
I was going through a lot of tests and chemo and radiation. You were there most of them.
Yes, most of the Monday one.
When she wasn't cutting hair, Danielle drove David to at least half a dozen of his appointments in Vancouver.
I went through the driver program myself when I was going through cancer, and then I decided to do it myself. It's great to make him feel at ease.
The best part is they don't have to do it, but no complaints, no matter how long the appointments were. Some were 7 hours instead of 1. They sat down there, not a complaint, it's just and all cheery, happy.
It's that compassion that's kept these two close 3 years later. For David, the haircuts don't hurt either.
I've always kept in touch, make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
As for Louise and Marilyn, who today remains her daughter's biggest supporter, they too are grateful to Jim and the rest of the drivers for making the road to recovery a smooth one.
It was unbelievable. I've lived here for 42 years and I know a lot of people in Squamish, and you know, you can always find somebody if you're in trouble to help. There's always someone there.
Did you know that 1 in 9 women are diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime? Hard statistic to believe, but that's why Louise and her mom are such advocates now of the importance of getting tested early and also steadily. So if you'd like to book a mammogram, be sure to visit the BC Cancer Agency website, and the link is on the bottom of the screen. Don't wait. All right, well, that wraps up our show here, coming to you from the 4th annual Kite Clash in Squamish. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd like to view all of the rankings of this year's event, pictures, all that good stuff, visit Kite Clash Squamish on Facebook and on Twitter. And also, while you're online, check out a piece we did a few years ago where we learned how to kiteboard here along the spit. You don't want to miss that. So just visit Shaw TV Sea to Sky on YouTube. That wraps up our show. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.